A one and a two and a chick-a-boom a chick.
What you're about to listen to after that wonderful intro music, don't you like that little one and a two and a chick-a-boom a chick? I just think it's so catchy. Let me know if you agree. On this episode today, we are going to talk about the central hub of all of your marketing efforts, which is your website. I have a guest with me today, Brian Javelin with My Online Toolbox, and we get practical, very, very practical things that you should and could be doing related to your online presence. And we also just get into some just good best practices for you. I didn't realize this probably until about halfway through. I'm like, oh, wow, Brian and I both talk quite fast. So you better get your notebook out and be ready to take fast notes. Or just like you can speed up so people can sound like this, you can also slow it down. You might want to do that with this one because we're both fairly fast talkers. Hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Thank you for listening to Remodelers on the Rise. All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Remodelers on the Rise. Brian Javelin with My Online Toolbox is here with me. Say hello, Brian.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Yes, indeed. And we were just talking right before it. I said, okay, here's kind of the format. Here's what we're going to kind of cover. And I said, Brian, sometimes I interrupt during these things. So be careful. And what was your response to that?
If you know what you know, it doesn't matter.
That plus the New York aspect. He's like, look, I'm a New Yorker. You're not going to throw me off.
Well, I am in Florida, though, so I've calmed down a little bit over the years. But yes, it's still a New York attitude at heart. So I take everything at face value, and feel free, Kyle, as always, to interrupt me at any time you want.
Yeah, you can take the guy out of New York, but you can't take the New York out of the guy. Is that how it works?
Exactly.
Okay, there you have it. So Brian and I have gotten to know each other over the years through just some mutual connections over the years. And then more recently, we're both part of a little mastermind group called the Construction Consultants Mastermind. So there's about 11 of us. If we went through the names, you'd probably, oh yeah, I've heard of Diane. Oh yeah, I've heard of Dan Bauman. You probably recognize some of our colleagues in there, but we've been getting to hang out and getting to know each other better through that and helping each other in our business. And I thought, you know what, Brian, I think it'd be a real nice Remodelers on the Rise podcast to have you on. And we're kind of joking about the New York thing, but something that I love about you, Brian, is there's some people that I think would, you ask them a question, they kind of sugarcoat it, or they kind of, hem and haw. When we ask you a question, you're going to tell it exactly like it is. Which I like about you. So let's get into some questions so you can tell it like it is, shall we?
Okay, let it rip.
So you're a marketing guy for Remodelers. What are you seeing? Here we are, June 2019. What's going on in general in the industry from your vantage point?
Well, first, it continues for the last couple of years to be pretty much the most exciting time that I've had in this industry. Everybody has been riding this economic boom to a point where everybody's busy. It doesn't matter who I speak to. Everybody's busy. I happen to are smarter busy rather than just saying they're busy, but they may not necessarily be maximizing their financial opportunities. But for us right now, every client that we're dealing with, whether it's an existing or a new, across the board, everybody's busy. So the one thing that I love is that there's no for, hey, what am I going to do next? It's really kind of trying to position for this impending slowdown whenever that may occur, but it's not gloom and doom, recession-oriented conversations. It's all everybody feeling that euphoria of having all the holidays, end-of-year holidays, every possible holiday in between maxed out into a 5-day period, and just trying to get everybody's attention to stay focused on a particular task is more of the challenge. But as far as opportunistic wise goes, it's really just a battle for how to most effectively use a 40 to 50 hour work week, but not twiddling your fingers, trying to wonder where the next job's going to come.
Yeah. And we're mostly going to focus the conversation around marketing for remodelers today. And it's, marketing when you need leads. Like, when I get a call from a remodeler, it's probably similar for you of like, I need the phone to start ringing. I mean, there's some things you can do for that, but the best time to be marketing, the best time to be building out your marketing plan is when you don't have to have it, right? Some of this marketing stuff takes time. It's foundational stuff that you need to put in. So for the remodelers listening, we're kind of nodding through what Brian said of like, yeah, I feel that. Like, it's busy. We are busy. Lots of opportunities. Just be reminded that now is a really good time to be planting those marketing seeds. So keep that in mind. What are you seeing, Brian, as the biggest challenge for most remodeling contractors these days?
Well, it continues exactly on what you just said, is that everybody's so busy that we have to go out of our way to remind them to start thinking about 3 months, 6 months out, because a lot of times, depending on the nature of what the remodeler does, like a lot of times if you deal with outdoor living right now, everybody's booming. So they're really not thinking about when it slows down around December to January to February. The problem is that someone like you and I and probably all the other people in our markets, we tend to get super busy somewhere between the week of Thanksgiving and the week of Christmas, not realizing that that's the wrong thing to be doing. It's easy to take little slices of people's time today and leverage that information, whatever that is, whether it's pictures, reviews, videos, and start planting the seeds for what we want in 2020. And that, to me, is my biggest challenge, is just getting everyone to breathe. And kind of like cash flow, even though they're busy, you still have to slice out a piece of time to double check that you've invoiced everybody and that the people who owe you money should be paying you. Marketing should be right in front of that, because invoicing and collecting the money is kind of like a task that's actually very beneficial for what's going to happen on Friday. But whatever we do at marketing is going to be what happens 3 months, 6 months out. So just give me a minute or 2 or 5 on a consistent basis. So when January comes, whatever the results are of first quarter 2020, we're already happening because of the efforts that we did for a few moments in the summer.
And I think it's one of those things where it's hard when you're so busy, it's hard to quote unquote make the time for it. I'm done saying I don't have the time. I don't have the time. We have the time because we have minutes in there. I think we overthink, or we think, boy, asking that client for a review, some of the things you were just mentioning, lining up to get those professional photos done, pulling out even my iPhone and just getting a quick video testimonial. We blow this up to be things that are going to take hours and hours of our time. But what you just said there of like, give me 3 minutes here, give me 5 minutes there, give me 5 minutes there. And those little chunks of time where you just put on your marketing hat and look around, maybe you're on a job site. There are so many things for you to highlight and show off that are just on a job site right now. Maybe, pretend like you have an ideal prospect, an ideal remodeling prospect walking on that job site with you. What would you show off? What would you tell them? And start to create that content. So I'm always thinking takeaways. So a couple of takeaways that you might have just on what Brian just shared and what I just shared is, don't overthink this marketing thing. Little 5-minute blocks of time can go a long ways. So just even pause this recording right now and think, okay, what comes to my mind when it comes to marketing my remodeling business right now? Maybe it's a follow-up phone call. Maybe it's a request for a Google review. Maybe it's lining up to get photos taken. So some takeaways there. Anything you'd piggyback on that?
Yes. And well, you are correct with the don't overthink it. And a lot of times, let me use what you said, like using the pictures as an example. I get a lot of guys that will have these beautiful remodeling jobs, and they'll show a couple of great pictures. And then when I go to talk to them, they'll say something to me like, you wouldn't believe what happened during the project. There was a problem here. There was a challenge here. And then I said, you know what? You're so emotional in being excited about what you did. Can you show me? And then the next thing they say is, oh my God, I was just so busy, I forgot. And I go, that's the portion of your brand, your story of where it's easy to have a before picture. It's easy to have an after picture, but all these little intricacies that makes the remodeler be who they are, they forget to capture it, and they don't really need something special. This little cheap phone really does a good job with pictures and being able to amplify those messages. So I tell people, don't overthink it. Like you said, just take a picture, preferably in landscape mode as opposed to portrait mode, so we could utilize it in different ways when we put it on the site. But don't overthink it. Grab it, maybe 1 or 2 pictures, and we'll teach you how to, glamorize the story, but don't miss the opportunity when it's happening. And that's something that's important to say. Just take a picture and just don't overthink it.
Right. And sometimes even just going through the pictures that you already have on your phone, you as the remodeler are kind of thinking, well, that's not interesting. But it's that even if it's just a couple sentences of what you do before you put the drywall up, the way that you did that, underneath the tile so that it's leak proof, the way you installed that window, all of these little things that you do that really differentiate you, that really make a difference in the longevity of the project. Those are interesting things. Document the process. for every 100 finished pictures, which, okay, that's a pretty finished picture. If you took even just 10 of during the process, I guarantee you're going to get more likes and comments and interest and everything on the ones that are documenting the process, that are telling the story. So just kind of shift your mindset there. I think we're so stuck in, okay, we need a before and an after. Just document the process. There are interesting things going on your job sites every single day. And also you have opportunities. Maybe you've got a couple people on your team that are out in the field that could also help you with this. Have them listen to this recording and then see, hey, what kind of content can you think up?
Well, the remodelers need to all remember that they're really good at what they do, and they take for granted what they do. Even me, when I had my kitchen done, I'm just using cabinets as an example. I've had thousands and thousands of different cabinets I've discussed or seen over the years, but I never saw how easy they were to pop off the wall and put back on. Of course, the remodeling company here said, hey, it's no big deal. I go, well, it is, because I've never done it. So it was just cool to see. And I'm just using something simple that just came front and center myself. But the very person here in my kitchen's nice. I like it. However, the process was very cool. And so I always tell all the remodelers, don't underestimate how cool you are, what you do, because what you're taking for granted, everybody else only does once, twice, or 3 times in their life. So we need to have your future clients see that excitement in how you treat your craft, and not just, hey, how fast can we get it up and what's the price?
Yep. And marketing is getting someone who has a need to know, like, and trust you. And when they're able to see the process, when they're able to see the little things that you do, that helps us build know, like, and trust. Let alone, maybe they get to see some of your team in the picture. Maybe you do a quick video of yourself and they get a feel for your personality and your expertise. There's a lot that can be done there. Cool. So we talked about kind of what's going on generally in the industry. We talked about the biggest challenges most remodelers face. What are you seeing as the most exciting part of the work you're doing with remodelers related to marketing?
Well, the most exciting part is capturing the customer experience. And it's getting easier and easier for remodelers to get their 24/7 sales opportunity, which is their customers talking about them as opposed to the remodelers talking. And what I found is that there was always this resistance of asking customers to be on a video, that type of thing. And over the last couple of years, it's just the opposite now. Everybody's now taking videos and posting stupid things on Facebook and whatever it may be, that if you speak to your clients in advance and say, listen, I like you, always have to give some type of compliment, that you are the type of customer that I want in the future. And when I'm done with this job, it would be wonderful if you would give me an opportunity to feature you, to show off that you're happy with me. Hopefully you are, obviously. And if you're not and you run into a problem, matter of fact, even bring that up in the video. If we bump into a challenge, it's okay to tell people that in construction, something went wrong. Just elaborate on what I did to fix it, whatever that may be. But what I find is a lot of times it's always the same repetitive thing. The customer will ask the contractor, so what exactly do you want me to say? And I tell every remodeler the same thing. Tell your customers whatever you're going to say to anybody when I'm not around, just the truth. Keep their guard down, because if they start thinking about it and try to glamorize who you are, if the video starts to come off a little choppy, you look at their eyes and they're constantly looking up to the right, thinking about what they want to say. But if they have something to say, whatever it may be, let the truth set you free. And if somebody's excited, let them keep going and going. And I don't 10 minutes about you. Keep the recording going. Don't necessarily worry about all the little things if somebody sneezes, coughs, whatever it may be. Capture it. You could always edit it. You could even have a summary version as well as an extended version, but let that person be captured. So when you place it on your site, and hopefully you put it on YouTube correctly, separate story, but getting the video is critical, because when somebody's checking out your site at 2 a.m. on a Saturday and just looking at whatever remodelers do, and they go to your review page, up until the point they hear anybody else speaking, they're reading with their own emotions and own way of hearing themselves speak. But when another person begins to talk, and preferably it's not yourself in your own, promotion video, but it's a customer, that's when all of a sudden now it's them relating to somebody else who's already bought from you, period. So I tell people now that, because years ago there was a whole big excuse about maybe the phones weren't as good as they were today, maybe people weren't into it. I tell people, I don't know what other word to use, so this is, people don't see me right now on this, but if you visit a handful of customers, finish the project, get the check, and can't get a video, what I'd like you to do is, I always tell my clients, go to a local Halloween store, buy a donkey's mask. And the only thing I could do is tell them, because of how powerful the opportunity is they're missing, just put it on for a second, get a little bit annoyed, but at least have somebody kicking them in the butt, because I can only do so much. You know?
I didn't know where you were going with that for a second.
Yeah,
You put on the donkey mask because you're going to kick them in the butt.
Yeah, well, you could start adding all the different words you want to, but that's the best way to put it. Okay. And I do have clients that laugh because they now tell me, you know, they drive away, they're all excited. They got the check, everybody's happy. They make it a block and go, oh, and they hit themselves in the head. I forgot the customer review. And I go, they were hot. It's like buying a new car. Everybody starts selling you the little, what is it called? That thing that hangs from the mirror that, lets that scent. They start selling you the mats, everything, because the excitement is at the highest level until you pull out of the parking lot. I have hundreds of reviews on my site, and I never met most of my clients. So I tell contractors, and I actually even have video reviews from people I've not met too. How can you be in somebody's home, sitting at their kitchen, using their restroom, petting the dog, becoming their and not walk out and get the most powerful marketing opportunity ever? It's just an excuse. So I tell the guys, just look in the mirror, and we could be polite. I could do all of the, oh, it's a shame type of thing, or just buy the donkey's mask and call it is what it is, because they have the opportunity. They have the golden Willy Wonka ticket. They just refuse to optimize, to leverage a situation that everybody else is envious of. And that's it. So what else do you want to call somebody? I call
part of it. Yeah. Part of it is also, I think a lot of the hesitation is the remodeler, you listening to this. If you've never recorded a video for your business, you have this fear of it, that it's going to, you know what? I don't like listening to myself play back. And man, when I play back stuff that I recorded, I've done it over the last few months. There's stuff I recorded early on in my business 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 8 years ago. And I look back at it going, oh, look at that young punk who thought he knew everything. But through those experiences, through practicing that, through creating that, it allowed me to learn and get better at it. So part of, I think, when they're sitting in front of a homeowner and saying, hey, could I just grab a quick, what you just said is exactly what I would love to just capture via video, whether it's short, whether it's long. I love what you said, Brian, of just really letting the guard down, of saying, whatever you're going to say to your good friend about your experience with us is what I want you to say on this video. It could be all praise. It could be a little bit of mix of both, but the reality and the truth of it is what I'm really after. But where I'm going at with that is, if you're sitting there and you're fearful of getting in front of video, when one of your homeowners have any kind of hesitation, you're going to be like, oh, no. Okay, I understand. If you can get behind the camera, even just placing the camera and showing one of your projects, you don't even have to be on the camera. Start with that. Once you get a few reps in, you're going to see the value in it. You're going to see how when you post it online, you're going to see how people respond to it. I think it's also going to give you more confidence to ask homeowners for something similar. So again, what you're saying is the thing you're most excited about related to marketing for remodelers, Brian, is this opportunity to create compelling, interesting, third-party endorsements videos. With technology the way it is, it's easy to capture it and it's powerful.
Yes, and the one thing that maybe there's going to be some people listening and they start to come up with traditional excuses why they can't do it. And I'll hear things like, well, we had a problem on the job. There was a delay. The materials came in late, whatever it may be. That's just construction. Tell them that it's not it's an excuse. They need to be able to ask their clients, hey, I need the review, and let them decide. Let them tell you no. That's a better thing. Don't come up with an answer of why the person's going to say no. At a minimum, ask, and worst case basis, they say, I'm uncomfortable. No, I'm unhappy. Whatever, let them say no. Don't knock yourself out of the park by simply saying you've come up with the reasons why someone's going to say no.
Yeah. Or they do record the video and it's not any good and you don't choose to use it. But that's still, even that experience is going to help you coach your clients a little bit better in the future. So my big tag on to that is, yes, ask your clients, do everything what Brian was describing there, because there's great power in using that. But also step out, step into the fear a little bit and start getting in front of the camera yourself and start, the first one may not ever see the light of day. The second one may never see the light of day, but it's important that you start getting used to it because it ain't going anywhere. Like this conversation in 2021, 2023, 2026, video is going to continue to become more and more important and part of your overall marketing. Cool.
And also, Kyle, just another thing, because some of the remodelers, I have seen some really what I call bad videos. I don't know what word to use other than the video is nothing special. Example, clients outside by a deck, and the person is actually really excited, but because it was outside, the contractor did not realize he was a little bit too far away from the owner, who was speaking pretty loud, but it still sounded like a low sounding video. However, when we go to the guy's site, it sells over and over again because the guy looks so natural. He's outside. He's saying exactly how he met the contractor, what went wrong with other people he was interviewing. And of course, when you look at the video, you could immediately start critiquing it and saying, oh, it should have been louder. You should have done this. You should have kept your hands straight. But at the end of the day, the guy keeps on selling new deck projects because of the emotional impact of what that customer projected in the most natural state that they can get. And that was the best he could do, even though the video wasn't of the, commercial grade quality.
Try, implement, test, get better. That's a huge part of this. Cool. What's the biggest thing remodelers that you're seeing are missing in their marketing?
Just in general, the continuity. I find that a lot of times there's this lull and it takes place for a long period of time. And then there's this magical moment that they wake up, and it happens with me a lot too, unfortunately, but it does, where I get a spurt of, hey, My Online Toolbox, here is the 4 projects we did over the last 5 months. Like they just show up in a sense. And all of a sudden I still get to do stuff, but what I have to do is kind of contain them because they're handing me a lot of stuff from 1 or 2 quarters, but I don't want to release it all at one point because that's not smart marketing. So I have to say, great, I know what I need to do, but let me take a step back because these 5 projects over the last 2 quarters, they had different service types, they had different locations, and I don't want to just go to the website and the Facebook and the YouTube and go everywhere and just have this magical 1 week of activity disappear. So I kind of tell them, okay, let's look at your ranking reports. Let's just take a breather and look to see what's doing well and not well with the services, what's doing well and not well with the locations. And maybe the last job you did is going to be the first thing we post, only because it was done in a particular location that we never had good rankings on. So I'm going to leverage the material differently. And then what happens is sometimes while I'm trying to think over a 5-month period, I battle with somebody else in the company who's into Facebook, and they're posting so damn fast to catch up to the past that I didn't get a chance to be strategic in how the YouTube video gets loaded, how it's going to support the web page, how that is going to then support the Facebook. And because all of these are interrelated events, sometimes the person being dormant for a period of time, it takes a moment to have them just chill out to then strategize what's the right way to deploy all of this content that's been accumulated.
You're talking continuity amongst all the different ways that you can market online.
Correct. Yes. And that's that challenge of just having people, it goes back to the original topic of having the continuous short spurts as opposed to, build for this magical day, 3 to 6 months from now to do all the marketing. And that's a continuous challenge. Yes. Over and over again.
Yeah. So you just stepped into a little bit, I think, which gets into the heart of what you do, which is, mostly all focused on the online presence, whether it is the YouTubes and videos, whether website, search engine optimization. Share a little bit more about kind of your wheelhouse of that, maybe some quick best practices that you're seeing, also just a little bit about how you do that work.
Well, I have 2 sides of the business. Right now here, I'm visible as Brian, but most people in the industry know the brand, My Online Toolbox. And there's a component of the side of the business, which is basically education, marketing education, website education, SEO education, and not necessarily to make anyone become like a tech genius in a sense, but more to be aware of all of the overlapping topics that allow somebody's online persona to be glamorized both cosmetically as well as for the search engines. And when I try to trim it down to a novice, I tell them, look, when you have a smartphone and you're plugging in point A to point B, wouldn't you like to see a map of 2 to 3 different options? And wouldn't you like to even have the traffic be included? Now, people love it and say, of course, why wouldn't I? Go, just time out. A few years ago, you didn't have that on a mobile device. First you had maps, then you had the traffic included. But at the end of the day, when I go to ask somebody, how does it all work? The standard answer is, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, so you're making decisions based on not knowing something other than there's a point A and a point B with a couple of options. So I tell people, since that's a physical way of looking at something, marketing is not all just physical. Just looking at a picture doesn't mean it's a pretty picture. It might be cosmetically, but it might be doing nothing for their inbound marketing. So the education side of the business is just giving them a general idea of why certain lead generation companies love to have all the pictures loaded there for free, because they optimize them to generate leads in order to sell them right back to the
so the education part is similar to how a remodeler might look at QuickBooks. Like, I need to be familiar with the nuts and bolts and the foundation. I need to understand my numbers. I need to understand how to read a profit and loss statement. I need to understand how to read a job cost report. But as far as the granular details of how do I, enter in this expense, or how to, just the details in the dirt, if you will, of the how-to, I don't necessarily need to know how to do that, but boy, does it help me to understand the overall concept of how QuickBooks works. Similarly, with the website, with the search engine optimization standpoint, you got to have a working understanding, especially I think on the SEO and the website side, where you're getting phone calls all day long, every week for sure. Hey, and get you listed number 1 on Google. There's so much confusion around that, and so many just hustlers out there that are just not doing it properly and taking advantage of people. So that similar concept, I think, of what you teach on that side would be, similar to what I just described.
That is correct. And then the other side is the actual planning side. When they're taking the educational classes, all the concepts are being brought out, both in summary and detail. But when people work with us on a consulting relationship, we're actually creating a real marketing plan that's saying, in addition to understanding how to the concepts, we're going to create a plan that's targeted specifically to that remodeler that allows us to isolate all the details of what they do, where they do it, and who they are as a business, also taking into consideration the strengths and weaknesses of their competition. And it's kind of like a soccer game. That's what I used to always, that analogy I use a lot.
Because you're a soccer coach, Brian.
Well, I got it, right? But I've played a lot of great teams. And
could I make you cry if I start talking about how your daughter's graduating and all of that?
No, not at all, because I've already gotten past that.
All right, good. Okay. All right.
Maybe a few months ago would have been different, but not today.
All right, but the soccer analogy
is that when you go up against somebody, a lot of times your strategy has to change based on the strength and weaknesses of your competition. And that sometimes takes a lot out of people to realize, well, what do you mean I know my competitor? And I go, most of you don't, whether you like it or not. You know them at the coffee shop. You know them on the street about what you heard. But when it comes to marketing, maybe many of these people are terrible at what they do, but they're great at marketing because they're writing a check to somebody else who's my equal. I always say I bump into a lot of smart people out there. And if somebody's my equal out in the planet, but they've had a 1 to 2 year head start with your competitor, even though I'm really good at what I do, I have to still be smart enough to know that another person who's had a 1 to 2 year head start, they could pour all the money they want towards me. And there's only so much I could do to catch up to that tenure of somebody else's marketing efforts. But when you're able to see the weaknesses of what your competitor's missing, using videos as a good example, if your competitors are not doing videos at all, then I'm going to guide my clients on how to turn it up a notch and how to leverage YouTube through Google. And by the way, for most people don't still know that YouTube is owned by Google. So why not leverage that connection? But if you don't do the videos, I'm sitting here with one hand tied behind my back and I'll still be able to do okay. I just rather convert my home run to a grand slam, but that grand slam opportunity only comes when the contractor or the remodeler is helping support the initiatives.
Good. So to kind of piggyback off that of kind of where you begin in your work, where you end in your work, if you were to kind of summarize that for remodelers of kind of what your focus is and where you could help them.
Well, my focus is whether it is a building on an existing website, which many times people are unhappy with their existing website, but they don't realize it may not be as bad as they think. It might be a disconnect between the owner and a programmer, where the programmer happens to be talented with technology, but weak in the marketing for the construction industry. And I've salvaged many relationships where the programmer's annoyed at the remodeler is annoyed at the programmer, but they're actually both really talented. They're just not communicating properly. Mm-hmm. So we've been able to actually work with people that through salvaging an existing site, or the sites actually many times are 5-10 years old and they really just need to be mowed over, and say, let's start off from fresh and reevaluate everything about their online persona. And I don't mean just the website. How Facebook connects to the website, Google My Business connects to the website, YouTube connects to the website, and bring them forward as if you were getting rid of your original flip phone and now it's time to get a smartphone. We'll work with either a person who's looking to possibly upgrade their existing site or change it altogether, and then all the ways through the process of capturing jobs, capturing client initiatives, capturing everything about them up until the job is completed, is where we focus our attention on. Where, and kind of like yourself, I guess it's a great lead-in. What we don't do is things like how to stay in contact with existing customers after the fact. So we're capturing everything in front of getting that next prospect to become a quality lead, showing off the best of who you are for those future customers, and capturing, when possible, the videos and testimonials and pictures of those completed jobs to further enhance the online marketing. Even though I don't take it further, like what you could bring up a little bit about that service, I rather not say it. I'd rather you kind of talk about your own service. But that area where you continue on with the existing customer, I would love to be able to do it, and I probably could. But the smart thing is, that's not where my focus is. So I cut it off right there, because there's just already a big enough pie to chew right there.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. And so where our engagements end is on the front end of lead acquisition, quality representation of the services and locations and the company, all through when the job finishes. And then at that point, people like yourself that have different supplementary services on continuing on with repeat business with existing customers, that's right at the line where we stop. And that's a great way to end.
Yeah. So we'll end a couple different ways. So to kind of summarize what you just described there of, your website is the central hub of a lot of your different marketing efforts, whether it's, networking, whether it's, staying in touch with previous clients, whatever the case is, your website is still that central hub. If somebody refers you, a lot of people that get referred to you, where they go first? Your website, and check you out there. So that's where, Brian, you do your work. I usually put like a little closing 30-second little kind of ending to the podcast, but I'll do that just live here. Related to what you just described of how do you stay in touch with your previous clients. But before I do that, let's just make sure people understand or know where to find you, how they can connect with you, website, if you want to give a phone number, however they can best connect with Brian Javelin with My Online Toolbox.
Well, I like the two best ways are either on our Facebook page. We actually have, if they like it, we have a weekly tip, religious, that we do at the beginning of the week. That's a short, quick reminder tip that just seems to be a very popular topic. And we actually chose the day that everybody told us not to do. And for some reason, it seems to be working well. So the Facebook side, in liking our page, not to necessarily connect with us, but to be reminded of the many things that are happening on a weekly basis. And we just choose the topic of the week that somebody says, oh, thank you so much for reminding me. So we put it right onto our Facebook, and it seems to be the great place to be for either prospects who may consider us one day, or people who are just looking for some free tip that may or may not connect with us, as a client.
Facebook.com/My My Online Toolbox?
Of course. Nothing else but the word My Online Toolbox, and it'll be the only one on Facebook to search for. And then if somebody wants to talk about potentially reviewing their business, reviewing their site, I always say, don't even call us first. Go to the website and just go to the contact section and tell us just a little bit about yourself and your current environment. And the reason is, it's not that I'm not interested in getting to know everybody, but a lot of times people want to do this drum roll 30-minute introduction about their whole life story and where they were born and how they got into the construction industry. And it's not that I'm not interested, but I don't want to be prejudiced. I'd rather say, tell me your website address. Now I'm going to make believe I just moved to town. And before you try to emotionally explain to me why you're the best person on the planet in whatever you do, let me just look at you before you start to cloud my judgment. And when I do, you wouldn't believe what people say. Oh my God, I forgot about that. I forgot about that. And I'm like, well, listen, that DWI, only joking. There's certain things that I have found that people don't tell me. And they don't realize that there is something, and I'm not using the DWI, bad analogy, but there are things. I've seen everything from, hey, you told me this website, but what about the other 3? With the same address, same phone number. And then they come up with a billion reasons why it's there. And it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's all wrong. So I don't want to get into the 40-minute conversation about why it occurred. I just have to go into the 1-minute conversation about why it's going to be a tsunami and we're getting rid of it. So at least from me going forward, I could do a good job. And if that hurts somebody's feelings, let it go. But
there's something.
Have the contact on the website allow me to kind of judge before the voice takes over with the emotional aspect of online marketing.
That makes sense. So myonlinetoolbox.com, what you said there, and then also what you said with, I work with them up until this point. I could help them with kind of staying in touch with their previous clients, but it's a reminder to all of us, myself, you, all of the remodelers listening to it, we can't be all things to all people. And we have to narrow our focus down and stay in our lane of where we are truly exceptional. And I think where that comes in with remodelers is when you're trying to do kitchens, bathrooms, basements, additions, install windows, do roofing. This industry is hard enough as it is, let alone to have to be, have the processes, have the procedures, have the team, have everything together for all those different types of projects. So even as you heard Brian kind of describe that, and I even practice in my own business, narrow your focus down. Make sure you know what is most profitable, what is you're set up the best for, what you enjoy doing the most. Find that intersection. And also that where that parlays into with marketing is your marketing message. It either, good marketing attracts the right clients or it repels the wrong clients. And when you start to specialize, when you start to get real specific on who your ideal client and who your ideal project is, frankly, it makes marketing easier and it also makes it more effective. So that's kind of a strategic lesson that even as you were describing that, Brian, I was pulling out. So thank you very much. We'll end with a little bit of, you had kind of mentioned, well, let's just split up the time, Kyle. Let's just talk about you, they hear enough about me if they're on Remodelers on the Rise. So I wanted to focus on you.
But let me still let you get a plug because I'm going to be bringing people who don't know you. When can you explain a little bit about the back end process of some of the things that you like to do with with customer contact after the fact, because it would help me out.
Sure. So I'll specifically just talk about kind of a new-ish program. I guess it depends on when you're listening to this. This is the thing about podcasts. You could be listening to a year from now. But it's a program called Remodelers Autopilot. If you go to remodelersautopilot.com, you'll see it. And it's something that I work one-on-one with remodelers a lot on their sales process, their overall marketing plan, and then also dig into helping them understand their financials and what they're charging. So this Remodelers Autopilot is a done-for-you email newsletter, customized with your info, good, solid remodeling-related article, some good calls to action in it, and some done-for-you social media posts. So neither are earth-shattering. You still need to be creating custom content of projects that you're doing. But what this does for a very affordable fee every month is it allows you to, you talked about consistency, to consistently stay in touch with your most valuable marketing asset, which is your previous clients. These are people that already know, like, and trust you, that you have a relationship with. And if we're not staying in touch with them, if we're not top of mind with them, if our name and business and some good education isn't reaching them consistently, they can forget about us in a hurry. So, to have an email that goes out to them once a month that makes it that's set up to make it really easy for you to get it out to them. Hey, Brian, here's your email for this month. Let me know if you want to send any tweaks or changes to it. If it looks good, let us know that. We'll send it for you. And similarly for some social media posts, just makes it really easy to be taking care of both of those, stay in touch with previous client items. Is that a good summary?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Kyle.
You betcha. I'm at your service, sir. Cool. So this was good. This was a lot of good information here for remodelers. Let us know what your takeaway was. I'm always interested in that. Before you move on to your next thing, if you actually listen to this from start to finish, take a minute and really truly think about something that, this is something I'm really going to implement or do. It could be reaching out to Brian. It could be reaching out to me related to Remodelers Autopilot. It could be pulling out your phone and seeing photos that you already have. It could be sending a note to that lead carpenter who's got a really awesome personality and saying, hey, surprise me today and capture something interesting on a job site. There's so many different things that you could do based on the discussions and the topics we discussed today. So
can I give a closing takeaway?
Yes.
Is that okay if they made it this long?
Absolutely.
Okay. For any of you who made it 45 minutes listening to both Kyle and Brian, first I thank you, but also one of the other areas, and it's comical, but it's a repeat topic, is, we spend a tremendous amount of time trying to package ourselves for this future lead that's going to be coming in 3 months from now, 6 months from now. And no matter what, the vast majority of those people, they're not going to be trying to reach out to you at that perfect time. You're going to be on a job site. You're going to come up with 1,000 reasons why you don't want to answer your phone at that given moment. So what I'd like you all to do is, if you've made it this far, just call your number and see if it's inviting with the voice message. Hopefully your voice message mail is not jammed up where it's not even taking messages, but let's assume you've cleaned out your messages and it is taking a call. Does it say, hey, this is Tony, leave a message? Or does it say, hello, you've reached Tony's Remodeling. We're in the field right now servicing other clients. Please leave a detailed message as to the service and your location, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you. It's not exactly those words, but it's basically the context. And right there, if we're going to spend our efforts trying so hard to get somebody to call you in 3 to 6 months from now, why not set yourself up that when you're not going to answer the phone, that at least your message looks a little bit different than the majority of your competitors that are doing the same thing, which is avoiding this little device. It's just technology, but now you're understanding how to better use that technology. And that would hopefully be an end of a little tip that it benefits somebody who was able to listen to us for 45 minutes.
Practical. I don't think it was a full 40. About 40. I don't think we started it. So, but yes, if they're at this point, there's takeaway. It's practical. I love that, practical. And when was the last time? And I'll close on your close with this. When was the last time you just even went to your stinking website, pretended like you were a prospect, and looked at it? You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked. I bet you. If you haven't touched it a lot, if you're not managing a lot, wow, do we still have that? Wow, why do we still have those photos up there? That is just not even close to the level of quality. Why did I even let that photo go up on my website in the first place? Wow, we have this team page, which is cool, but this person doesn't work for us. This person isn't on here. So similarly of just call and listen to your voicemail. Do the same thing with your website and look at it through a new prospect's eyes. All right, Brian. Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, Kyle. Speak to you soon. Thank you.
Take care.